This Father's Day, celebrate the dad in your life with a special event and come on down to the Rooster Tail, located in downtown on the beautiful Detroit River, for a Father's Day luncheon that he won't forget. There'll be great food, there'll be giveaways, there'll be prizes, and outstanding entertainment. So stop searching and go online to eventbrite.com. That's eventbrite.com, and look for our Father's Day luncheon at the Rooster Tail. Get your tickets now.
He was single, drove a red two-seater sports car, and read tech magazines in his spare time. Today, he has been divorced, but is happily married, and he drives a more conventional four-door and spends his spare time either coaching or watching his adopted sons play either baseball or football. Today, we're going to talk with him about loving your child through a divorce. Today, my guest is Nick Giaquinto. Hi, Nick.
Hey, Sarah.
How are you?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you for coming on Real Dad Speak. All right, so let's get to the basics. I'm going to ask you the basic questions to start off this interview. In what city did you grow up? Where did you go to school? Hold on. Where did you go to school? Do you have siblings? What do your parents do for a living? And how long have you been married? So start off with, where did you grow up?
So I grew up in the city of Detroit, educated through the Detroit public school system. I wouldn't change a thing. I graduated from Cass, and then went to Wayne State, bounced around a few other schools, Michigan State, but got my degree from Cleary and associates in management information systems from Wayne County Community College. So I am truly a city boy.
Okay. So, do you have siblings?
I do. There are 5 of us in total. I'm the oldest of all. One of my sisters, my oldest sister, passed away, and they're all doing great.
Okay. Are you guys close?
We're very close. As we have grown and all have our own families now, it's created a little bit of difference, but we still get together on holidays and birthdays, and, as much as we possibly can.
Okay. What do your parents do for a living?
So my mom, she worked on and off with the school district and some nonprofits. My dad worked the factory most of his life. He doesn't even have his high school degree. I was the first in the family to go to college.
Okay. All right. So you're married now. How long have you been married?
It's been a couple of years now, this marriage.
Okay.
All is great. It is though our two, because we're a blended family. My wife, Essie, she has a boy and a girl, Chase and Lonnie, and my son, Marcus, who's adopted, blended perfectly. Lonnie wanted another little brother. Chase wanted a little brother. And Marcus wanted a big sister and a big brother. And he got all of that when our families came together.
Yay. Okay. So you've been married a while. You're a blended family. Did you get the family, the desire to be married and have kids from watching your dad and mom, or?
So my mom will tell you a different story. My mom will tell you a story that I was the kid that was so selfish. I told her when I was young that I never wanted to be married, never wanted to have kids. I just, as you introduced, I wanted to be fast, drive fast cars, and live a single life. But once I found family, like my mom will tell you that I adopt every kid. So I'm probably guilty of that. It just happened.
Okay. So did you kind of get your qualities of being a dad from watching your dad?
I did. My dad worked really hard, and he was the sole, for many years, he was the sole income for our family. So his work kept us away, but he always made time for baseball or camping, taking us fishing, going to the park. So most of it does come from him.
So you guys are still close? You were close, really, really close with your dad too?
Yeah, my dad and I, well, the boys. So we have boys morning out every Every Saturday we go out for breakfast. So it's many generations, not just me, my dad. It's Marcus, it's cousins. So we all get together and hang out every Saturday for breakfast, at least every other Saturday.
Okay. So your dad kind of influenced you to be the dad that you are today.
Yeah, to work hard, to provide for the family. He was definitely the foundation for that.
Okay. How long have your parents been married?
So 54, going on 55 years now.
Wow,
Yep,
that's a blessing. That's a blessing. Wow.
it is.
So, do you know exactly when you decided you wanted to be married and start a family?
You know, I really don't. I know when I was at the Detroit Police Department with you, um, there was a young man who lived across the street, and his dad was not around to teach him how to ride a bike or throw a football. So I bought him his first bike, taught him how to throw a football, hit a baseball, and I think that's when my mom realized that I probably need to be a dad. But I
You
found a lot of
realize you
ways.
need to be a dad.
But it was being there. I think that's probably what made me reconsider that fast life that I once thought was my future.
Okay. So, your grandparents, were they a big part of you guys' lives? And, were, because you say family, your family's close and all of that. What about your grandparents? Were they a part of spoiling you as a kid? And, like, does your mom spoil your kids?
So grandparents, we were really close with my mom's side of the family. For many, many years, we just were this huge clan of people that took over the park and hung out together. We were very, very close. As the years progressed and everybody got their own families and folks started to move away, not so much, but we still get together. Um, my grandparents have since passed away, so they're not with us. But all of us cousins, we get together a few times every summer, and that's a hilariously fun time.
So while you're in school and you're, thinking about you just gonna take care of you, did any of your friends become dads while you were in school, college, or you know?
So I have one friend left from elementary school. So we've been friends since just about first grade.
Okay.
Um, he was the first of us to become a dad. And I remember him going through that in the struggle. So I waited a little bit longer than he did before I.
Uh-oh, she broke up on this. Can you hear me? Uh-oh, you froze out. Q, can you hear me?
Am I back?
You're back now. Okay.
I'm back.
So you said you watched him go through his struggle.
Yeah, because he waited until he graduated high school.
Mhm.
He was going to trade school at the time. So balancing being a dad, going to school and working was a struggle for him. He was a great dad, he still is,
Mhm.
but it was difficult because he wasn't quite established.
Okay. So did you watch him and say, I think I can wait? Uh, because he was young. So,
Yeah, I decided that I need to be a little bit more established, a real grown up job, be a full grown up before I decided to test out being a dad.
okay. All right. So, you get out of school and you grow up and you get established, and then you find a beautiful young lady, and you guys decide you're going to start a family, right?
Well, we decided we were going to start a family, but that was the challenge for us, right? We soon after we got married, we realized that she had already entered menopause. Not that we were older, but she had already entered menopause, and we could have done all the in vitro and all of those things, but we had a long talk, and we decided that adoption was the way for us to go.
Okay.
She uh, she wanted a newborn baby girl, and I wanted that for her. Um, and we were on the list. We did all the foster parenting classes because we were ready to bring this newborn baby home. We were on the list for almost 2 years. Our license, our foster parenting license, was about to expire, and they called us about Marcus. And I remember that day so vividly. We met down at Eastern Market, um, and went into this big room, and they sat us down, and he was there, and his foster mom was in the building, but not in the room. Um, the, all the officials from Human Services, Health and Human Services, were there, and they brought Marcus into the room, and he just froze, turned into a statue, and turned towards the wall and faced the wall. My heart melted at that moment. Um, all I could think was, I'm going to get down on the ground. I'm going to go to his height, and that seemed to work. I was the first one that he walked over to. And he took me out the room immediately and took me to a window where the birds were playing, and he showed me all the birds. Um, it was at that moment that I knew he was mine. Um, my wife and I, we had agreed not to make any rash decisions, but as soon as we got to the door, we were like, that's it. And it's just been magic ever since.
All right. All right. So he's he's how old? He's in grade school, like in the second or third grade at this time when you get him, or is he younger than that?
No, he was, like I said, we were on the list for a newborn, but um, he was almost 2 years old.
Oh,
He got to celebrate his second birthday with us.
oh,
So
great.
yeah, he wasn't quite in school. And just a little sidebar, the power of love. So they told us that he wasn't reaching his early on milestones and he might need special education. But we didn't waver a single bit. Um, and then I remember his first day at kindergarten, or first day at preschool even. He was reading beyond his age limit. And so the power of love. It was truly blessed.
All right. All right. So, as he gets older, do you think about I gotta tell him? Well, I mean, he knows. Does he ask about his parents, or did he forget all of that, or do you tell him he's adopted? Because I mean, he really doesn't know, right?
So certainly at 2, he doesn't have any idea of what's
Right.
taking place. But at 2, um, my wife and I, we would read to him every night, and some of the books that we would read to him were about adoption. This animal in this family doesn't look like everybody else that's in the family. So he knew, and he started kindergarten when he was 4. So he knew at the age of 4 years old that he was adopted. It was not a secret. We weren't going to keep that from him.
Mhm. Um, so you sat down together, or the books, reading the books? Did he have questions, or did that books kind of like let him know?
So the books kind of led him to questions. And when the questions came, my wife and I made sure that we were both there for them, and answered his questions. And so he has known that he's been adopted since the point of him knowing what adoption even was.
So the question, did he have questions about his biological parents, or um, did he ever say, "I want to meet them," or no?
He, so he has never, ever asked to meet them. We told him um, that he was left at the hospital, and that his mom doesn't know who the dad is. Um, but he's never asked to meet. We don't have her name.
Mhm.
All we know is where the birth took place. The adoption agency has all of that information, but he hasn't asked to meet her.
Okay. All right. So you guys going and you're raising him to be this perfect little guy, and something happens that you're not going to raise them together anymore. And so,
So I can't say perfect little guy. As a mom yourself, there is no perfection in parenting, and there is no perfection in childhood.
right.
But we do the best we can. And yes, Marcus's mom and I, we decided to get divorced. It wasn't. It was a very amicable divorce. We never went to court a single day.
Okay.
Um, she had grown one way, and we decided to get divorced.
Okay.
We agreed on joint custody, so I have him half of the time, and because of baseball and football, I get to steal him even more than half of the time, and I am not upset about that in the least.
Good.
Uh, so he is with me one week and with her another week, but even during the off weeks, I'm with him because of baseball or football, or because he forgot something at school, or needs help with this. And now being a junior, we're looking at college, and being a sports dad, I'm doing the best I can to help him navigate that as well.
And we should mention that you are at his game now. You're outside. Uh,
I am absolutely at the game. Go Girls Point South.
and you're kind enough to take a few minutes, but you can still see him in action at his baseball game and
Absolutely. He's
doing his
got two other
tribute.
coaches up there, and they're still warming up. So we're
Okay.
good.
Okay. So, do you have any friends or relatives that have adopted or
So it was very interesting because where we moved, and when his mom and I got together, we were both in Detroit, but we decided to move to although I went to Cass, and I encourage anybody that's listening or watching this, Cass is still an amazing school. It prepares kids better than any school. But we decided to move for a better school district, for elementary school, middle school, and even high school. And where we moved in, we have parents on either side of us that both have adopted children. It
wow?
just it just worked out that way. And the adoption agency that we went through, Homes for Black Children, who did a great job. Anybody looking to adopt, I shout them out all the time. Um, my ex-wife's brother, his best friend, they adopted through the same agency. So we've got this whole network of adoptive parents and stuff going on.
Okay. All right. So, did anything make you want to change your mind? Like you said, it took you almost 2 years. Did the process seem like, maybe we should just call it quits and, take care of our nieces and nephews? Or did you ever get to that point where it's like, I don't think I want to do adoption?
No, no, we never gave up our dream. Um, there wasn't that was never even a thought. Uh, we kept talking about, oh my goodness, are we gonna have to take the whole class again? Or, but those were the only conversations that we had. We never ever wavered on having a Marcus.
Okay. All right. So now that you've made your parents, grandparents, are they similar to your grandparents with you and your siblings?
Let's see. You know, for the most part, they are. For the most part, they are. Um, they're older, so they don't get to make as many baseball games or football games as they used to. But they're there. We were together on Mother's Day. Shout out to all the moms. Um, and yeah, yeah, they're very similar. They're all about the kids.
Okay.
And once they get a grandbaby,
Mhm.
they kick their own kids to the side.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. I can relate to that. I can relate to that. So, how important do you feel is his mother's role in making him a responsible adult, even though you guys have divorced?
So we both believe because her mom and dad were together as long as mine. So we both came from that foundation, and that's who made us who we are. And certainly I'm not perfect, um, but it is important, in my opinion, to have two parents, a strong male and a strong female role model in any child's life, and that's why we agreed on the joint physical and legal custody, so that he would still have both of us in his life.
Okay. So you seem very loving and caring. Do you uh, like express your feelings? Do you think it's important to, tell your son you love him and to show, physical affection, like hug him or kiss him and all of that? You being a man, and especially now that, you and his mom are living in two different households.
So I gotta say, of the two of us, I'm probably the most affectionate. Um, and Marcus and I have many discussions about what my job is. He knows that my job is to make him a better man. Um, but he also knows that, it's okay to show emotion. It's okay to cry. It's okay to love publicly. He knows all of those things. And so I grew up, in Detroit, and there was this whole toughness facade that the male role model played in the city. And it took me a long time to realize that because of that, I was probably not the best man that I could be. So through my own lessons, and hopefully I'm getting it right? Because the report card still isn't in yet. I'm still working on it. I get my weekly progress reports, but I'm trying, and hopefully through him being able to show emotion, share emotion, and deal with emotion, he'll be a better man.
We'll be right back after this break.
This Father's Day, celebrate the dad in your life with a special event and come on down to the Rooster Tail, located in downtown on the beautiful Detroit River, for a Father's Day luncheon that he won't forget. There'll be great food, there'll be giveaways, there'll be prizes, and outstanding entertainment. So stop searching and go online to eventbrite.com. That's eventbrite.com, and look for our Father's Day luncheon at the Rooster Tail. Get your tickets now.
So when you say emotion and stuff, like, do you talk to him about like forgiveness and accountability? You know, like when he, just growing up, kids being kids and doing what he considers inappropriate and getting angry and then saying, "I don't want to be bothered with him." You talk to, because he's a guy. You don't have to fight. You could talk it out, and then you can just say, "Okay, I'll forgive him for that," and then you can just move on. Do you have you had to have a discussion like that about forgiveness, or?
So to go back to your beginning, I was always the disciplinarian in the family for
Okay.
him, right? My ex-wife didn't do that, um, but being in the line of work that I am, uh, had to share with him early on there are consequences for your actions. And so yeah, we've had all of those conversations all the way through his life, starting from childhood up until now when he's being a knucklehead in high school and I got to take his PlayStation away. But I don't know if it's because I don't know if there's a blueprint that anybody can really follow. But anytime I have to take discipline against him, Marcus, for him making a mistake, I usually let there be a cool down period, and then he and I have a conversation. And it doesn't change the consequences, but
Right.
this is probably a better point for us to to have a conversation about what happened, why did this happen, the consequences, and how this might relate in life when he's out there and he's a full grown up on his own, decisions that he makes. And quite honestly, and it may be kind of weird um, coming from a guy that looks like me, but I lost many of my friends growing up to gun violence and just bad decisions. And so, although the world is a much better place, I think it's important to have those conversations with a young black man growing up in some of the settings that they're going to be exposed to in life.
Like it's when he starts to drive. Is he driving?
So we're learning how to drive now. He would be driving now, but that was one of the consequences of some grades that he got.
So after he learned, your intention was to buy him a car. Is that
So he has worked off and on, time
okay?
permitting,
Okay.
and financial literacy is also important, and
Yeah.
that's something that I have been working with him on. So when he gets some few dollars from his grandparents or aunts or uncles, or he has to put some of that away into his bank account, and when he works, he has to put some of that money into his bank account. So he has saved some money,
Okay.
and the promise that I have to him is I will match whatever he is willing to spend on his car.
Okay. So you're not just gonna outright buy him a car.
No, he's got to have some skin in the game.
Okay. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Now, so you talk to him about responsibility, accountability. So, how important do you think it is for you to tell him that you're proud of him when he accomplishes a difficult task? How important is that for a young man to hear his dad say, "I'm proud of you, son"?
Um, I think it is, we all need that from time to time. It's not just a young man growing up into adulthood. It's us as adults. It's us as, leaders in corporate America. We all have a responsibility to lift people up when they're doing good and doing the right things. And so when he does good, and he does a lot of good. I beat him up pretty bad, but he does a lot of good. Um, he would, one of some of, let me put it that way, some of the proudest moments I have is uh, him taking in the kids that nobody else would play with. So he has a very eclectic group of friends. You would think that a kid that plays football and baseball, that all of his friends play sports, football and baseball. And that is absolutely not the case with him.
So he has learned like unconditional love from you because you just accept everybody for their character and not for what they do or what they look like. Is that a good assessment?
It takes a village,
Okay.
and certainly I'm in that village, and I hope that I am that role model for him. But it doesn't just come from me. I would love to take all the credit, but I can't.
Okay. So now you're saying he's going to get a car whenever he's ready to spend the money for it. And because he's an African American male, they have the thing called driving while black. And so are you giving him the speech about driving, being African American male driving and how you respond to police if you're pulled over? Or, have you had to talk yet?
Yeah, and let's kind of reframe that a little bit because uh, I think a lot of communities, Detroit especially, has done a really good job, whether it's through education or even just the implementation of body worn cameras. They have done a lot better job, establishing a valid reason uh, to pull somebody over. But there are other communities. After I got remarried, um, my oldest son, my newest son, he was in school in Ypsilanti at Eastern, where he was playing football and working on his bachelor's degree. And it's a little different up there, and a little different through some of the neighborhoods that he had to drive through to get there. So I have absolutely had that conversation with Marcus, and I continue to have that conversation with my oldest son as well.
So what are
It's,
you stressing?
so social media just inflames everybody and empowers the worst of people. And that can send outrage across any racial, gender platform. And so for both of them, it's important to know that, meet people where you do. Sometimes they're having a good day, sometimes they're having a bad day. Your job is to make sure you have a good day, the best day you possibly can. Um, you try to help the others. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Being polite, being respectful. Um, so yeah, we definitely have those conversations.
So the fact that you have to have those kinds of conversations about driving, and people putting the just white painting all officers with the same brush, saying that they're all bad and they're all this or that. So um, that's just one aspect of him, becoming a teenager, driving. The other thing you're going to have to, or do you have to be concerned with speaking to him about, like smoking, underage sex, drugs, unprotected sex? Do you have to, all
So
those topics? Do you have to have those now or later, or do you have those conversations? Have you had those conversations with him?
so I think the key is having conversations early and often, and to go back, right? So another little funny story. Um, I grew up at 7 Mile and I-75, and we were the last white family in the neighborhood. And I love to play basketball. I played basketball and I swam. Those were my things. Marcus chose a different path, but my squad, there were four black guys and me, one white guy. So I joke about being the face of racial profiling because I kid you not, and my buddies and I, we compared numbers. I was in the back seat of more scout cars or had my hands on the hoods and trunks of more scout cars than any of them, being the only white guy in the neighborhood. Where you buying drugs from? This, that, and the other. Why you're over here? Um, so so I kind of lived it a little bit. So even though it's kind of a strange conversation to hear racial profiling from a white guy, um, that's what makes it easy to have those conversations with them, right? Because I can relate, and they can, they can bounce questions off of me, and I have real life examples.
Right.
Yeah, I hated the police growing up. I literally hated the police growing up. Um, the boys, both being athletes, their bodies for what they want to do. The one that's now working on his master's and playing football at Robert Morris, he still has aspirations to play next level football. So he knows that his body is his temple. And Marcus, who has a desire to play Division I baseball and football, he knows that he has to take care of his body. And so drinking and alcohol, those things, they're no good, right? Not in any way, shape, or form. Not just for the decision-making side of things, because we know that those can influence the decisions that they make. But they also know that if they want to achieve this, right, they have to they have to navigate this gauntlet um, of risk and danger to get to where they want to go. So, fortunately, having a conversation with two boys that are athletes, it's an easy conversation. But we
Okay.
talk about it all the time because they have friends that make bad decisions, and we gotta say, okay, you got to give that friend a time out. You don't want to be around while they're making bad decisions because bullets don't have names. Um, and sometimes people do catch stray bullets. And unfortunately, that's a reality the society that we live in right now. So it is definitely something that we talk about all the time.
Well, it sounds like you've got them well-rounded. I mean, you guys, I mean, is there any question that's off limit? Or do you just let, if he has a question, you're trying to answer it, or let your ex-wife, his mom, answer it for him?
So, in our line of work, we learned very easy that you have to make the uncomfortable comfortable. So there is no topic, no subject that's off limits. There are times that I recommend that he get, the input from his mom or female role model. But there's nothing off limits for us.
Okay, that's good to know. Yep, that's good to know. So, so somebody else, a young man that adopts a son, what advice? I don't know. What could you tell them about, like, after you adopt them, and if they later on, start asking questions, what's the advice that you give?
So first, I'm going to start with there are so many folks that are afraid to adopt. Right? They don't think that there will be the same connection um, that you have if biology is associated. Um, and I'm here to tell you, I couldn't imagine it feeling any different. You know, um, once they're yours, they're yours. Once that gotcha date happens, they got you, and you're all in. Um, we took the approach of sharing the adoption aspect early on, and through our group, our network of others that have adopted. I think that is it worked out very well for us. And in my opinion, from what I've seen, I think sharing that adoption early, even when even when your son or daughter doesn't know you're talking about adoption, like those books that talk about, a rabbit being, raised by cats or something as ridiculous as that. Um, it begins to make sense, and they know that the true thing that makes you family is the love that you share.
I appreciate that. Okay, so now we're gonna get down to what I call my final five. It's either gonna be questions or statements that I will pose to you. So, number one, what do you think is the most misunderstood thing about being a dad?
I think it goes back to the question that you asked, right? There are so many dads out here, and my dad was that way, right? We didn't hug a whole bunch, we didn't talk a whole bunch. He was always present. I knew he was the rock in the family. I knew he was the provider. I knew all of these things. Um, but the emotional connection uh, came after literally I found out that it was so important to share with Marcus. So now my dad and I, as awkward as it is, we hug it out every time we're together. Um, I think it's important for dads to share that love, show that emotion. Um, there's sh- being able to cope with emotion um, is is important, and it is key to ensuring that they make good decisions in the future. Right, bottling it up and waiting for it to explode is not a good thing. So sharing emotion, showing that love, understanding, compassion, being able to relate, those things are critical to raising a child, and especially a young man.
Mm, yeah. All right, finish this sentence for me. I knew I was a good dad when.
Somebody else told me so.
Okay. All right. So you have raised, you helped raise a bonus son. You're raising your adopted son. what advice would you give a new father about raising a son, regardless if he's adopted or your biological child? What advice do you give a new father?
So if that connection isn't there, right, you find it. Um, because being a dad isn't associated with biology. That's just my opinion.
I agree.
And you ensure that we all fall, right? We all fall down, we all get up as best we can. It's okay for them to see that. As a matter of fact, it's important for them to see that when life beats us up, that we're able to get up from those bad moments, but that we're always able to be good people and good humans.
All right. What do you think is an important thing for your son to know about you as a man and as a dad?
Well, he knows it. And I started this when he was, God, old enough to have words, every night. And it's embarrassing for him now because he's 16, 6'1", and 245 pounds. So he is my height and outweighs me. And I won't tell him this publicly, but he might be a little bit stronger than me. But before he would go to bed, and even now, at times, I ask him a question and he has a response. Who loves markets? You do. How much? Whole bunches. That's right. Don't you ever forget. And I will. And he says, not give up. So that's our little thing. We have our little mantra. It's been with us since he's been old enough to have words, and it's still with us today.
It's beautiful. Okay, so final question, number 5. What's the best advice you ever received about being a dad?
It's probably the same advice that I think fits many different situations. There is no perfection. It's trying everything, never giving up, and talking to everybody.
All right. Well, thank you, Nick. I appreciate you coming on and sharing all of your views, opinions, and stories about you and your wonderful family. And hopefully you will continue down this road of being the best dad you possibly can and husband, making everybody happy.
I keep trying every day. I love you, Sarah. Thank you for having me on the show.
I love you back. Thank you for coming on. We'll talk soon.
All righty.
All right. Bye-bye.
This Father's Day, celebrate the dad in your life with a special event and come on down to the Rooster Tail, located in downtown on the beautiful Detroit River, for a Father's Day luncheon that he won't forget. There'll be great food, there'll be giveaways, there'll be prizes, and outstanding entertainment. So stop searching and go online to eventbrite.com. That's eventbrite.com, and look for our Father's Day luncheon at the Rooster Tail. Get your tickets